Welcome, welcome. We are here to discuss our topic on temperance. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this moment where we can actually delve into the study. We ask for your Holy Spirit's leading, teaching, and guidance is our prayer. In Jesus' name, amen. Proverbs chapter 26, verse 2, part B, tells us that the curse causeless shall not come. The curse causeless shall not come. And whenever you see disease, know that disease never comes without a cause. So these two statements I'd like you to commit to your memory, and especially the other statements that follows, commit it to memory so that you'll always have it fresh within your mind, at the tip of your tongue, so that you can refer to it. What is the definition for disease? Disease is an effort of nature to free the system from conditions that result from the violation of the laws of health. And what are the laws of health? They're pure air, sunlight, abstemiousness, rest, exercise, proper diet, the use of water, trust in divine power. These are the true remedies. So we're looking today at abstemiousness. Another word, temperance. And every man that striveth for the mastery is temperate in all things. Castaway. Now they do it to obtain a corruptible crown, but we an incorruptible. True temperance teaches us to dispense entirely with everything hurtful and to use judiciously that which is helpful. So to dispense entirely everything that is hurtful and use judiciously that which is helpful. In order to preserve health, temperance in all things is necessary. Temperance in labor, temperance in eating and drinking. So we want to apply true temperance. If there's anything that has the potential to help in one way, but yet destroy in another way within the body, let us rather choose not to have it, but look for an alternative, something which will be all good. And for example, green tea might be touted for its benefits in giving antioxidants, energizing the body, but at the same time, it is something which can cause a nervous reaction on your nervous system. It can cause iron deficiencies, and it can increase your heart rate or cause you to have problems with sleeping. So it's giving you a negative effect on the body, one which we don't want. And so we'd rather leave off the green tea and use some other herbal recommendation that's more specific to your condition and that would not have these adverse reactions on the body. There are few who realize, as they should, how much their habits of diet have to do with their health, their character, their usefulness in this world, and their eternal destiny. The appetite should ever be in subjection to the moral and intellectual powers. Let that be the ruler, your mind ruling your appetite. The body should be servant to the mind and not the mind to the body, to go by feelings. Whether therefore ye eat or drink, or whatsoever ye do all to the glory of God. When thou sittest to eat with a ruler, consider diligently what is before thee, and put a knife to thy throat, if thou be a man given to appetite. Proverbs chapter 22, verse 1 and 2. It is possible to eat immoderately, even with wholesome food. So we want to eat enough so that we're satisfied, but we don't want to overeat. All the labor of a man is for his mouth, and yet the appetite is not filled. Ecclesiastes 6:7. So, what are the effects of overeating? Some of them are that you have a sluggish, slow thought process in your mind. Everything is, taking long to think, long to make decisions. Digestive organs are weakened, and so you get problems with digestion, problems such as acid reflux, heartburn, hiatal hernia. You can also have vital powers are called into unnecessary action to take care of the food placed in the stomach, all because you're overeating. All the energies in the body focuses now on digestion. That is a longer process because it's more than what the stomach can handle at the time. So what influence does overeating have upon the stomach? Continued. It becomes debilitated. The digestive organs are weakened, and disease with all its train of evils is brought on as the result. If persons are diseased before, they thus realize the difficulties upon them and lessen their vitality every day they live. They call their vital powers into unnecessary action to take care of the food that they place in their stomach. What a terrible condition is this to be in. Taken from Counsels and Diets and Foods, page 135. So even by the overeating, there's so many different aspects in digesting this meal. And you're actually going to cause certain organs to work excessively. Now, we're hoping that with the large meal, you're actually chewing to help in the digestion. But then you have your stomach that needs to secrete all this acid to digest your proteins. Then you also have your pancreas that needs to produce enzymes for the excessive amount of food that you are intaking, and your liver also needs to produce like bile for breaking down the fats in your food. So you're literally taxing other organs. And then if the digestion process doesn't happen timely enough, if it is too long, the food begins to ferment, it begins to rot in the body. That gets out into your bloodstream. Now you have your kidneys just waiting to try to flush that out of the system. Your colon is taking a hit. So your entire body is actually being overworked when all these vital organs are overworked when you actually overeat. So food, still great, but let's avoid overeating. That's when you feel that you're bursting at the seams. By overeating on the Sabbath, many do more than they think to unfit themselves for receiving the benefit of its sacred opportunities. So on Sabbath, let the meal be simple. In the last days, what temptation will we face if we are not careful? The temptation of appetite. The controlling power of appetite will prove the ruin of thousands when, if they had conquered on this point, they would have had moral power to gain the victory over every other temptation of Satan. But those who are slaves to appetite will fail in perfecting Christian character. Counsels and Diets and Foods, page 163. So to gain the victory over temptation. We need to first gain the victory over appetite. We need to control our appetite. And when we do so, you'd be disciplined enough so that whatever other temptation comes at you, you would be able to stand. Now, what about food addiction? We need to allow God to work with us to overcome foods which we may be addicted to. Addiction to food can cause overeating and overweight. It also decreases the immune system, thus opening the door for disease. The use of caffeine increases the risk of cancer of the ovary and bladder in women. And I also want to say cancer of the bladder even in men. And for men, disease of the prostate or peptic ulcers and osteoporosis can come about because of caffeine intake. At one time, the gentleman called and I was speaking with him, and he was telling me that he was urinating. When he urinated, he passed urine and like clots of blood. When he urinated, he passed blood, clots of blood. And I said, wow, you need to go have that checked. How is your prostate doing? What's happening there? And, it could be some other cause. And he eventually got to going to the doctors and being examined and so forth. And then he called back and he said, you know what? I have bladder cancer. And I said to him, wow, what have you been doing? Do you drink coffee by chance? And he said, yes, I do. I love coffee. And there's a particular brand that I love so much that I have lots of boxes in my cupboard. And I said, okay, there's a problem. One of your problems, that caffeine is destructive to your body. And he said, well, recently I've been impressed to leave the coffee off and go to use cocoa powder. And I said, oh no, same evil. Don't use the cocoa powder because it will have the same effect on your body, and which led to one of the great factors that would lead to the bladder cancer. So chocolate, it contains caffeine-like substances, but like theobromine, which gives a high and then an all-time low. So it acts very much like caffeine in the body. But it is actually the cocoa bean that has the cousin of caffeine, which is theobromine, and that does the same effect on the body. So it can cause you to have the bladder cancer, but it can also cause you to have problems sleeping. It overstimulates the nervous system. It causes stomach irritation, so your stomach has difficulty in producing the different acids and so forth that it needs to produce. It elevates the blood pressure. It restricts the blood vessels. It depletes calcium and irritates the kidneys. The effect of the cocoa, the coffee, and other substances that has these ingredients in it, it makes it addictive. And so you just want to have more and more and more. Some people say that they're actually addicted to chocolate because of this great feeling it causes them to have. And it is addictive in nature, and it increases phytic acid within the body. So these are effects of caffeine and theobromine in your chocolate and in your coffee. Now, what about alcohol? It is true that wine contains various protective plant chemicals, but these are also found abundantly in grape juice, as well as in the grapes themselves. These phytochemicals prevent heart disease by improving cholesterol and inhibiting blood clots. In view of the far-reaching effects of alcohol, wouldn't it be much wiser to drink grape juice or eat the grapes themselves? So lots of times individuals see, that there is a little wine is good for the stomach's sake. But the same protective elements that they're looking for in the wine is also found multiple times in the grape juice or eating the grapes. So why not use that, eat the grapes or drink the unfermented grape juice, and at the same time gain the benefit to the body and without having the adverse effect on the body, which is the far-reaching effects of alcohol. There are many who would start off with wine and soon long for something stronger, and it has led them to become even alcoholics. And this research about what's in the wine, the protective elements, that on one hand, that you can also find within the grapes themselves. It's taken from a circulation called Temro and a company Temro HS Saline PR Folds JD in an article entitled Administration of Wine and Grape Juice Inhibits the Fibroplatelet Activity and Thrombosis in Sinuous Canine Coronary Arteries. So it can also have these, the great benefits when you eat the grapes themselves. Habakkuk 2:15 tells us, Woe unto him that giveth his neighbor drink, that putteth thy bottle to him, and maketh him drunken also, that thou mayest look on their nakedness. Now, what about exercise? Could we be intemperate even in our exercise? It says that jogging can cause an enlarged heart, but walking is the best exercise for the diseased. Walking is preferable to riding or driving, for it brings more of the muscles into exercise. So let us rather do walking, not the jogging. The jogging actually takes a toll on your joints, on your hips, on your ankles. You're bringing your body weight down like about 3 times every time you drop on these joints, and it can wear them away pretty easily. So it can cause pain and discomfort. And let's do the walking. Even for some who have already heart issues, by the jogging, you create this heart has to pump even harder. But even just by jogging, it's a muscle. The heart is a muscle, and so the heart has to pump more blood quickly, and so you can get what you call a runner's heart or an enlarged heart. What about overwork? Be careful not to overwork. So work is great, but let's not overwork. Take care of yourself, get proper nutrition, stop to eat even when work is so busy. Follow that which is taught to others and be temperate in all things. And, you talk about stopping to eat even when you're busy working. You stop to eat, but you stop and be relaxed to eat. Don't be eating, quickly shoving down the food, and you find, it does you no good because you're hustling eating. But, stop to take care of yourself and try to avoid, think, am I overworking here? Take time out, rest your body. Even Jesus had something to say on this in Mark chapter 6, verse 31. And he said unto them, Come ye yourselves apart into a desert place and rest a while. For there are many coming and going, and they had no leisure so much as to eat. It is an easy matter to lose the health, but it is difficult to regain the health. We cannot afford to dwarf a cripple or cripple a single function of the mind or body by overwork or abuse of any kind of the living machinery. So it is an easy matter to lose the health, but it's a lot of work and patience to regain the health. And so let's avoid overworking or abusing any part of the body. We should practice temperance in our labor. It is not our duty to place ourselves where we may be overworked. Some may at times be placed where this is necessary, but it should be the exception and not the rule. We are to practice temperance in all things. Practice temperance in all things. This is taken from the book Temperance, page 139. Ecclesiastes 12:12. And further, by these, my son, be admonished of making many books. There is no end, and much study is a weariness of the flesh. Much study is a weariness of the flesh. Intemperance in study is a species of intoxication, and those who indulge in it, like the drunkard, wander from safe paths and stumble and fall in the darkness. The Lord will have every student bear in mind that the eye must be kept single to the glory of God. The eye must be kept single to the glory of God. So when it comes to study and work of the mind, he is not to exhaust and waste his physical and mental powers in seeking to acquire all possible knowledge of the sciences, but is to preserve the freshness and vigor of all his powers to engage in the work which the Lord has appointed him in helping souls to find the path of righteousness. So they need to preserve it. Do a lot of your mental work, yeah, but preserve it so that you will be able to be of continued work, engage in continued work which the Lord has appointed you to do. Wearing of clothing that cause your body to become chill suppresses your immune system. When the limbs become chill, what do you find happening? Colds and flus can be a result. Immodesty in dress can cause chills which can result in different diseases. So immodesty in dress, meaning that you wear clothing where your arms are exposed. Wear clothing where your limbs are exposed, your legs and the majority of your legs are exposed. Or your chest or your back is not covered. When you get out into cooler air in the AC, it can cause a chill in the body, and the reaction is one where your immune system is suppressed, and that can cause sickness and disease. Not only the cold and the flu, you can have circulatory problems, circulation problems, cold hands and feet. You can cause a reaction on your nervous system and wearing away at your organs. So what 2 Timothy chapter 4 verse 5 to 7 tells us, but watch thou in all things, endure afflictions, do the work of an evangelist, make full proof of thy ministry, for I am now ready to be offered, and the time of my departure is at hand. I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. Now let's turn to the lifestyle assessment form, where you would see some other questions on temperance. Now, the lifestyle assessment form is one where you would, in consulting someone, give the individual the form to complete. That helps you to have a more directed idea or vision of what the person is currently doing, their habits, their practices, just to see what they're doing, what condition and state their body is for the questions that you can ask. This now you will look and make an analysis of and give them some feedback as to what are some of the areas they need to correct. What are some of the areas they need to tighten up on, where they're already doing some things good, but they need to be a little bit more tight on this. So in explaining all that, here we're going to look at some questions that are being asked to the individuals you're going to be helping. But what's the explanation? What is the reasoning behind these questions that are asked? So if you turn in your manual to the lifestyle assessment form for the class activity, here is where you would be able to see these questions, and this is the reasoning behind asking the question. So on the question, under temperance, what is your current occupation? Why do we ask this question? Now, the job may be too stressful and prevent the individual from complying with the 8 laws of health. And so the next question about placing, to list your last 5 jobs and the years of service, the years you spent in them. Now, if someone put that their last job was, they were a bartender for 10 years, what would you be thinking about? Now, one you could be thinking that, this person was probably, exposed to alcohols and so, handling them. So if you see that this person has a problem with drinking alcohol or wine, and you can think, well, maybe they are addicted, the exposures for so long. But the prior practices and jobs can influence your current health issues that you have. For example, a night worker in the past might now need to have lots more sunlight and regular sunlight every day to regulate the sleeping pattern or to correct bone-related issues, because what happens with individuals who work the night shift, it is that they're working nights, they get home, and they have to sleep during the day. So they're really not getting that exposure to sunlight to help them to make vitamin D or to help to reset their circadian rhythm, so they have problems with sleeping at night, or you see that they have hormonal issues simply because they're short on vitamin D, or they weren't being exposed to the sunlight, and so their biological rhythm is now off. So the person who works night shift, they can have diseases easily because of certain things that shouldn't happen in the night, bodily repair and building and so forth, doesn't take place because they are awake. You also find that increased sugar levels can take place. So one might be diabetic simply because they have a night job. And we've seen that when we've counseled individuals, and from the time they began working at night, be they a security officer, a taxi driver, or they're in the medical field and they're working at night, and bus drivers too. In some countries where you have transport systems through the night, those folks tell us we ask, when did your condition start? Your blood pressure run high. And most times it's at that time when they started to work the night shift. So we see that the blood pressure goes up, cholesterol levels goes up, blood sugar goes up, and now they have the condition. They need to make changes and even look at that occupation that is, causing the disease to come upon them. And unless they start sleeping more in the night and get some shift in their work timing, they're going to continue to be plagued with the particular disease. Note too that even being a night worker is one of those things that lowers the immune system. And there are studies that showed working at night and its correlation with increased cancer within the body. Now, question, do you use tobacco? Did you use tobacco in the past? Now, one, for having tobacco in the past can weaken your vital powers. So, it may have caused damage to your lungs, and so now you have respiratory issues. So it's quite important to know the history if someone used tobacco in the past. But at the same time too, if you have someone who would like to quit smoking, how long does it take nicotine to get out of your system? Now, 4 days after quitting, you can have nicotine removed from your blood. It can be 3 to 4, depending if it is that individual is using some herb to help flush, clean their blood and to urinate and so forth. But 4 days after you stop smoking, the nicotine is removed from your blood. And when nicotine is present within the blood, the individual has a greater craving, a desire for the cigarette. But once the nicotine is removed from the blood, then that desire is decreased. And you continue on along that path, it's no longer there. However, know that by eliminating other stimulating substances from the diet, it is easier for the cravings to stop. So if you remove the tables of our American people are generally prepared in a manner to make drunkards. By the use of tea and coffee, an appetite is formed for tobaccos as well. And this encourages the appetite for liquor. So they're all stimulating: the tea, the coffee, the tobacco smoking, of the cigarette, the drinking of alcohol. They're all related. From the time you start having one, you soon have a craving, a desire for something greater that would actually give, that better and greater satisfaction in the body, because what you're using, a tea, that's not good enough. You want coffee, something stronger. You want alcohol, something stronger. You want the tobacco smoke, and stronger again. They're all related. Not only these drinks, but also the flesh foods. They are stimulating to the body, to your nervous system. So we're looking at the fish, the chicken, the turkey, the crab, the lobster, the animal milk, their byproducts, sardines, the sausages, all those. The saltfish is addictive, and it has, the hypersancine in it that makes it addictive, the saltfish. But these flesh foods and these other drinks, if you're having them and you're trying to stop tobacco smoking, it's going to be problematic. So you got to make changes in order to overcome on that aspect. So do you use alcohol in any form? Now, if the person tells you that they're using alcohol, studies show that moderate alcohol consumption increases the health of the heart. how would you respond? So we talked about this earlier where individuals would say wine is good, for heart health or for the stomach. But while wine may have protective heart um, elements, that protective plant chemical is also found abundantly in the grape juice or the grapes themselves. And these phytochemicals that is used to prevent heart disease by improving cholesterol and so the quality of your cholesterol, but at the same time inhibiting blood clots. In view of the far-reaching effects of alcohol, wouldn't it be much wiser to drink the grape juice or eat the grapes themselves? I say yes. So let us rather eat, when you're looking for phytochemicals in food, eat the grapes, drink the grape juice. Don't use the alcohol or the wine. So do you ingest caffeine in any form? So caffeine can cause lumps in the breast. So if a woman has like persistent breast, stay away from green tea, from chocolate, from caffeine drinks like the energy drinks. Stay away from the coffee, or anything that has caffeine in it. Let's take that out of the diet because it will contribute to lumps in the breast. You have nervous reaction by the use of the caffeine. It's stimulating. It causes an elevation of blood pressure, and caffeine may be used as a medicine, but not in the diet and in your drinks. For some, if you look at some medication, you may see caffeine within there as an element that's added, especially like tonics or capsules that for energy. Read the ingredients because sometimes you would see caffeine as a substance in it. But while it may be giving you energy, at the same time, it is also increasing your heart rate and your blood pressure, taking another toll on the body. That's not true temperance. At one time, we worked with an individual who had two jobs, maintaining a great, fancy lifestyle, but working two jobs. And so he had to be awake up a lot through the night and in the day as well. And to help with keeping up his energy level, he was actually drinking energy drinks by the cases per week. And, just pumping this drink down because of the caffeine element in it that would just energize him and keep him up awake. But at the same time, he was actually causing damage to his heart. His heart rate would increase once you start drinking these things. And so he got to the point where he had chest pain, went to the doctors, and they said, in order for us to fix you, you need surgery. The surgery was not available in his country, but he had to fly to another country, plus it was at a cost. So he had no money to do so, and he came to us looking for help. As we sat with this gentleman and questioned, we recognized that he was using these energy drinks by the cases per week. He couldn't even walk 100 yards without getting severe chest pains. And so we encouraged him, here are the changes that you need to make, and you got to stick to them and do them now. And that involved, coming away from, number one, those energy drinks. Stop it immediately. At the same time, coming away from all other addictive substances, like the flesh foods and those foods which would affect the heart, the flesh foods and their byproducts. Coffee in any form, everything that we teach. And we also asked him to do walking for his exercise, but just go as much as you can do without getting the pain. And he started to do this immediately. He made the changes. And whereas he could not walk 100 yards, after 1 week, he was able to walk that 100 yards without getting the chest pain. Soon his body strengthened and he was able to walk further and further without getting the chest pains. And in about 3 weeks' time, when he returned for a follow-up visit with his physician, and they ran some tests and checks on him, they were blown away by his improvement. The doctor actually called the cardiologist and said, look, this guy no longer had the injury to his heart than 3 weeks before. He was so improved. They told him, continue. What are you doing? Continue doing this because it is definitely helping you. And, that's the benefit with lifestyle medicine. As you make these changes, the body responds to it from day one. Now, do you overeat? What effects does overeating have on the system? So it taxes the stomach, makes it feverish. So it's the stomach that's overworked, and even your liver can be overworked. And once these organs are overworked, it gives you a feeling that you're feverish, faint, can't think clearly because your organs are overworked. So when you overeat, you overwork your organs. The brain nerve energy is benumbed and almost paralyzed by overeating. And so it's difficult to hold discussions or even to make decisions when you have overeating. You might be talking and you might be saying, trying really hard to pull your thoughts together because of the large and extra large meal that you had earlier. So overeating, even in the simplest foods, benumbs the sensitive nerves of the brain and weakens its vitality. Question. Do you eat too fast? How can we slow down the time it takes for us to eat a meal? Now, chewing food slowly and thoroughly as chunks of food in the stomach can cause digestion. So if you eat too fast, you find that you would swallow pieces of food without chewing them in your teeth, by your teeth. It goes down your esophagus as larger pieces. It gets into your stomach, and your stomach needs to actually work on breaking this down, but it's more difficult to do so. And so you would be overworking your stomach simply because you're eating too fast. And another thing is by eating too fast actually shuts down your whole digestive system. So it just like too much, and it freezes up. So take our time to eat. Chew your food thoroughly. As you chew your food and bite down into that food, you find that there are enzymes in your saliva that's produced by various glands in your face, in your mouth, and the saliva actually gives enzymes for breaking down carbohydrates and fats, and it starts to break down from in your mouth. So it's quite important for your digestion that you chew your food. Then the next thing is that if it gets into, it goes onto your stomach and lower area, small intestines, without being properly broken down, digestion can be delayed. You can have gas and bloating, simply because you're not taking your time to eat. Do you chew your food thoroughly? So there are things like soups and liquid foods that can cause you to drink rather than eating your food. If you do make a soup, it should be thick. Soup in the liquid form and liquid foods continually is not recommended. It will cause digestive problems. It can cause nutritional deficiencies, because what happens is that as you drink these meal-like items, it bypasses so many of the portions of the body that is responsible for breaking down the food. So for one, the saliva enzymes isn't going to be able to adequately do its work on the food. So if you do have liquids, let's mull it around in your mouth. Chew your liquid, so eat your liquid and drink your solid. So your solid, you chew it down so much till it comes like you can swallow like a drink, but your drink food items, you want to take your time and actually work it around in your mouth before you swallow. So little sips, doing that rather than gulping it down. Soft food does not require mastication, so it's easier to swallow portions without chewing, but you bypass those enzymes that's necessary for breaking down the molecules within the food and helping them to be exposed to the enzymes that is responsible for breaking them down, which is quite important because it needs to be absorbed into your bloodstream. And if it gets into your bloodstream undigested and not in the right frame, you could have liver issues or kidney problems because of how you're eating your food and drinking these liquid meals. You also find that the more dry the food is, it's easier for digestion as compared to the wet liquidy foods. Question: do you snack between meals? What does snacking do to the digestive system? Snacking wears out the digestive system. The whole digestive system takes 4 hours, so sometimes 4.5 hours to digest and then it needs an hour or 2 of rest. This is one reason why we do not support a diet of 5 to 6 small meals throughout the day, as it speeds up the metabolic rate, but it also taxes the stomach and makes it difficult for these foods to be digested in a proper manner, because the small meals may not be enough to trigger certain digestive functions in the body, and so it's these small portions that just the stomach is constantly working, your liver is constantly producing maybe bile for breaking down fats within those meals. Your pancreas is constantly trying to provide the environment for helping the carbohydrates and the fats to be digested. So you're overworking your body at these organs when you keep snacking all the time or having these regular smaller meals rather than a proper full meal. And we get more into digestion in our topic anatomy and physiology and explain a little bit more even then. So what about desserts? List any desserts you eat. Let's have a check for the unhealthy desserts. So you can make stuff that's healthy, but when you're having cakes, the pies, the pudding, the pastries, eggs, milk, and sugar combined as like an ice cream, you have problems there that makes it unhealthy blood, because these substances are being absorbed into your blood. You have unhealthy blood, unhealthy tissue structure. Do you eat at set meal times? Why is it important for our bodies to eat regularly? Gastric juices will be produced at set meal times once we set and have regularity in our eating times. So it would also make our stomach ready to receive the food once you have your set meal times. In no case should the meal be irregular, just eating anytime we wish, but let's keep to set meal time 7 days a week, no exception. The stomach must have careful attention. It must not be kept in continual operation. Give this misused and much abused organ some peace and quiet and rest. After the stomach has done its work for one meal, do not crowd more work upon it before it has had a chance to rest and before a sufficient supply of gastric juice is provided by nature to take care of more food. 5 hours at least should lapse between each meal. And if you always bear in mind that if you would give it a trial, you would find that 2 meals are better than 3. So for individuals, some will do 2 meals and they're quite happy and okay with that. And they would find that they feel better, their digestion is even better than having 3 meals a day. Regularity in eating is of vital importance. There should be a specified time for each meal. At this time, let everyone eat what the system requires and then take nothing more until your next meal. Consistent Diets and Foods, page 179. So you eat all that you need to eat at your meal time and nothing else in between your meals. So you're going to have your fruit, your meal, your dessert, everything within that meal time. Now, after the regular meal is eaten, the stomach should be allowed to rest for 5 hours. Not a particle of food should be introduced into the stomach until the next meal. In this interval, the stomach will perform its work and will then be in a condition to receive more food. Regularity in eating should be carefully observed. Nothing should be eaten between meals. No confectionery, nuts, fruits, or food of any kind. No healthy apple, no healthy grapes. Nothing in between your meal should you have. If you look at Consistent Diets and Foods, page 180, you will find the reading there. Now, a third meal, if taken at all, should be light and of food most easily digested, such as crackers, the English biscuit, or zwieback. Zwieback is bread baked twice. And fruit or cereal coffee are the best food suited for the evening meal. Cereal coffee is toasted grains. So the crackers, the bread baked twice, the more dry the bread is, the healthier it is and easier for digestion. Fruit is something that you can have for your third meal. So should you actually eat vegetables or salad at night? Let the students have the third meal prepared without vegetables, but with simple, wholesome food such as fruit and bread. Consistent Diets and Foods, page 178. So for that third evening meal, no salad, vegetables. So no lettuce or kale or broccoli or cauliflower for that evening meal because it will take longer to digest. No fats for your evening meal, no nuts or seeds for your evening meal. The fats will take long to digest. You simply want like fruit, fresh fruit, or if you have a natural fruit spread and you want to place that on some toasted bread, then that would make easy. Then think about fruit. If you have like tomatoes, cucumbers, pumpkin, eggplant, those you can have with your evening meal. Prepared in a simple manner What you can eat raw, you do, but if you do need to cook it in a simple manner, don't add in any fats to it, no oils to that for that evening meal. And research has shown that if one eats after 6:30 p.m., it stops the production of melatonin in the gut. As a result, the body does not get restful sleep at night. So eat your food, your third meal, your supper before 6:30. You should be done because eating after stops the production of melatonin in the gut. Melatonin is a hormone that is produced to aid with sleep so that you have restful sleep. Please list times for all meals. You're looking here to see the time that the person is eating their meals. If it is too close, that would account for their digestive problem. 5 to 6 hours or more should be the spacing between your meals. At least 4 hours, 4.5 hours for digestion, and then an hour or two before you have your next meal. An hour or two resting before your next meal. Now, what would you say that your dress is healthful and modest? Well, there are some guidelines to dress that makes it healthful and modest. So we talked earlier about, having your arms covered. And we get more into this topic when we look at our topic on dress. But your dress should be inexpensive. It should provide warmth and proper circulation. It should be chosen for durability rather than display. The Lord provided the face with an immense circulation because it must be exposed. He provided also large veins and nerves for the limbs and feet to contain a large amount of the current of human life, that the limbs might be uniformly as warm as the body. They should be so thoroughly clothed as to induce the blood to the extremities, so that the blood goes down to your feet and into your hands. Now look at this statement taken from Testimonies, Volume 2, page 532. It says that Satan invented the fashions. Which kind of fashions? The one that leave the limbs exposed, that chilling back the life current, the blood, from its original course. So who invented those fashions? Satan did, because he wants God's children not to have proper circulation throughout the body, which could lead to so many diseases. Now, what about leisure activities? List at least 5 leisure activities that are not constructive to health of body and soul. We have board games, novel reading, pornography, TV watching, surfing the net aimlessly can waste one's time. So board games creates this element of competition. Novel reading takes you into a different place, into that which is false. Fables do the same. Pornography actually leads you down a path where it's not conducive to good moral and spiritual health. Watching the TV, be selective with what you watch, because it can influence your moral standards. If you look in the book written by Ellen G. White, compiled Adventist Home, there's a chapter in there on what shall we play, on recreation and amusement. It talks about what are some of the things that are helpful for us to engage in, and also what we need to move away from or be cautious against. So how much time do you spend in leisure activities? We ask this because it's interesting to see that time spent in leisure activities can be time consumed compared to time spent with God. Because when you come to ask the individual, how much time do you spend reading your Bible? And they put very little time, but yet you're spending 3-4 hours in leisure activities. It says you can carve out some time to spend with God. So do you overwork? Here, why do we ask that question? It's because the body needs rest, and overwork can break down the immune system. Some make themselves sick by overwork. For these, rest, freedom from care, and a spared diet are essential to restoration of health. So sometimes somebody is overworked so much that they're so fatigued and they're sick because of it. Just stop, skip a meal, sleep, do some activity that's not stressful on the body, walk. And in so doing, you would be able to restore the health and let that illness go away. So please list any addictions. So when you look for a definition of addiction, it says physically and mentally dependent on a particular substance and unable to stop taking it without incurring adverse effects. So you're dependent on a particular substance, and if you stop, you have an withdrawal symptom. Another definition is that enthusiastically devoted to a particular thing or activity. Have you been involved in substance abuse? So if you used any drugs in the past, it can affect your nerves and your brain cells that would be affected. And we also talked about the effects of alcohol and tobacco. Same would affect our nerves and our brain cells, and persons may suffer depression or unable to think logically or handle large volumes of information. Now, do you read novels, science fiction, pornography, fashion magazines, and computer games, partake in them? So when it comes to pornography, how would you counsel someone? Now, know that the scenes are reviewed over and over again in the mind, and so all the body reactions will be taking place, be it stimulating or, as the case may be, if the body goes through all those reactions because of what those scenes induce you to. It destroys interest in the Bible. Passion is aroused and the end is sin. And it can lead to self-abuse or masturbation and cause zinc deficiency, which can lead to blindness, prostate affliction, or even slowness in your movement because of zinc deficiency. Now, what about zinc and self-abuse? Now, every drop of semen takes away the daily supply of zinc that is needed by the intestine. So it takes about 72 hours to replenish zinc. Now, zinc is also a trace element found in the eye. And several years ago, it was found that men who took Viagra got blind. They did not know what caused it. And we are told that zinc deficiency causes macular degeneration of the retina because you're deficient in zinc. It is not advisable to take zinc supplement, as too much zinc can actually lower your immune system. But masturbation causes loss of zinc because of the frequency of such activity, and this can lead even to mental disorder. So let us get our zinc from our foods like your pumpkin seeds and so on, not supplementing and not overdoing on the blessing, because it takes 72 hours for that zinc that could be lost in the semen. It takes 72 hours to replenish the zinc. Zinc deficiency can also lead to prostate affliction, cancer, and skin disruptions. At one time, we were lecturing, and a gentleman walked up and dressed Brother Luke, separately after. And he said, I know the effects of low zinc levels and the skin disruptions. He was one that masturbated, and it caused these lumps or bumps under the skin to show up simply because of the zinc deficiencies. There is temperance even in that which is good. So intemperance in sexual activity can lead to sickness and disease. Now 1 Corinthians 15:33 tells us, "Be not deceived, evil communications corrupt good manners." Evil communications corrupt good manners. In the book A Solemn Appeal, page 12, it tells us that neither is the old proverb questioned that a man is known by the company he keeps, but evil communication with books, no less than with men, corrupts good manners. And the sentiment is worthy of passing into a proverb, that a man is known by the books he reads. Books are men, not paper men, but men on paper, and these influence the character of their readers, as do men in the flesh, the character of their companions. Show me a man's book, the books of his choice, and I will show you the man himself. Let me control the reading of a rising generation, and I will prophesy a bad book is a bad associate, a good book a good one. Sensual books tend strongly to make sensual readers. Their corrupt habits of self-abuse have debased their minds and tainted their souls. Foul thoughts, novel reading, low books, and love stories and excite the imagination and just suit their depraved minds. Love stories, love movies, love songs excite the imagination and cause depraved minds. Taken from an appeal to mothers, page 50, page 50. So let us stay away from reading these novels and fiction books that don't give these true stories, because there can be things in there that's immoral, and we're reading them and making practices and changes within our lifestyle. It makes it difficult for us to make proper decisions when it comes to the aspects of morals and love and so forth. Now, in being temperate, what do we put on our body? What about nail polish? Nails are actually extensions of the skin, and they are porous. They speak health to us. Keep them free from hardeners or polishers. Tea drinking can cause nail deficiency. So if you're thinking that, well, my nail is weak and it's brittle and, not strong, instead of applying a nail polish to strengthen that nail, make it hard, look at your diet. If you drink tea, then your nails will be affected. So when you use these nail polishes, they actually contain chemicals that's toxic to the body. You place them on your nails, but they can be easily absorbed into your bloodstream and be toxic to the body. Then what about tattoo? Printing. The skin is the largest organ of the body. It is porous. Whatever is in lotions, it can be easily absorbed into the skin. But if you pierce your ear or you do pierce with the needles to get a tattoo, it takes 1 year before you can give the blood, because there's a metal effect from the piercing of the tattoos or the piercing of the ear with that metal that would cause MRIs to give false readings if done within 1 year. So when, these marks that we put on our body, let's refrain from doing so. Leviticus chapter 19 verse 28 even tells us that ye shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor print any marks upon you. I am the Lord. So God doesn't want us to print these things on our skin. And then you have it brings toxins to our body and in our blood because of the chemicals within them. Now, when it comes to the hair, the head has a high absorption rate. So by using hair dyes and chemicals, they will be absorbed in the scalp. And if you lack nutrients, the body actually pulls it from your hair. In this way, it can pull in chemicals. So wigs prevent the scalp from breathing. It can also cause leprosy, where persons who had leprosy sold their hair, and it was used to make wigs. Those who wore it after contracted leprosy. And the natural hair weaves or wigs can carry disease and sickness. If you take a grain of hair, you can put it through a lab and analyze it to really tell as well what the person is, certain deficiencies they have or what they may be suffering with. And, but when you take these natural hair weaves or wigs and you put it on, that's getting onto your body. And even though it might go through process of cleansing and so forth, who is to tell what wasn't effective in the cleansing process to take away? Now, when it comes also, let me just mention something with the hair and the scalp absorbing. If you are short on protein, your scalp actually pulls protein from your hair, and as a way of providing the body with it. There was at one point a lady who loved wearing hats, and she had a particular one that she liked, a purple hat. Time passed on, she got ill, she died, and in doing the autopsy they found purple color all within her head. It's because her scalp actually absorbed the dye that was coming from this purple hat into her. It absorbed the color into her body. Now, when it comes to shoes, high heels can cause curvature of the spine. High heels can affect the ligaments, and it is designed to cause you to tilt forward and have your butt pushing out, but it can cause that spine to curve. It's not conducive to good health. These high heels are 4, 6 inches and more. They're like stilts, standing up on stilts. So the high heels, they tilt the womb, making it difficult to have children. And it will also affect circulation and put pressure on your knees because your body isn't upright and standing and walking. Then another thing is that the ligament just behind the heel all the way up to behind your knee, it shortens when you're constantly wearing these high heels. And so when you go to wear bare feet or wear a flat shoe, you find that ligament now needs to stretch back, and it can cause pain within that area. Now, question: do you attend cinemas, dances, nightclubs, house parties, and amusement parks? Why do you think we ask these questions? These are not conducive to spiritual health. The entire machinery of balls and parties of dances and other amusements of young people, they tend to excite and inflame this passion. Thinking it a fine thing to get in love, they court and form attachments long before either their mental or their physical powers are matured enough to handle such things as love. And so the senses are awakened in corrupt forms, in forms that are not matured or helpful in terms of love. And so they end up making poor decisions for their life partner, for their future, for themselves even at the present state. So do you play competitive sports is another question. What are three dangers, at least three dangers of competitive sports, looking at it from a physical, mental, and a spiritual level? So physically, it can elevate the blood pressure with competitive sports. For example, look at cricket. If you're a lover of cricket, I dare you to test your pressure before a game, during a game, and after the game, and you'd see that elevation of your blood pressure. For excitement, or you're annoyed, whatever it might be, competitive sports can have issues. The individuals have fallen down dead because they got so excited and their blood pressure went up in these competitions. Now, how does it affect us mentally? The competitive sports, you find that one would think to be higher or better than the other. So even in the board games and these games, as long as you're competing, you want to be better than the other person. And spiritually, this is not godlike when persons want to esteem themselves better than others, or their behaviors do not match that of a child of God. List all types of music that you listen to. If you were to read the Bible and spiritual prophecy, give at least 5 principles that give safe guidelines for God's standard of music. Now, they should have clear tone and words. So we're not going to apply our own thinking and opinion on this, but what does the spiritual prophecy writings have to say about music? Clear tone and clear words. We must be able to understand the words. No shrieking notes, so don't be singing in ways that it's held out in a shrieking manner. No syncopation, which is one that would cause you to be chipping away as if dancing. It should not cause you to want to dance using your body for that. You find it should also be soothing and ennobling when you listen to good music, soothing and ennobling. To learn more about the music and so forth, you can go to the book, The Voice in Speech and Song, written by Ellen G. White, The Voice in Speech and Song, S-O-N-G, and it would give you some guidance there as to your voice and culturing your voice and how you should speak in a noble Christ-like manner. And it would also share information about the songs we ought to sing and the music that we ought to play and listen to that would ennoble us and build our Christian character, make us Christ-like. So it's a great book that we would encourage you to read. And that brings us to the end of this topic on temperance. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for our messages that you have placed before us. We pray that we would apply them to our lives. It's our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.